Hello guys, this is Ali Solanki and today we'll be talking about the 5 simple steps to become financially independent. I'm currently 20 years old and have built over 11 different sources of income to finally becoming financially free. I've always wanted to earn money by myself without having to ask my parents for money even for the small expenses. And these 5 simple steps have helped me achieve the same. The third point has been a direct contributor to my earnings and the last point has helped me earn even when I'm sleeping. So don't miss out on these important points. Now let's look at the first one, which is set your goals right. The biggest problem when it comes to investing is we don't actually have a proper reason to do it. Yes, we want to earn more money, but how much exactly? What are you even saving money for? These are some of the questions that you should ask yourself before even beginning your journey towards becoming financially free. Without a proper goal in mind, you would not stay on the track of investing your money for the long term and would end up losing it instead. So the simplest way in which you can set your first goal is by asking yourself this question: how much money do I need every single year so that I can be satisfied? While calculating this amount, make sure you're including every single thing you might end up spending money on in a year and always take the upper limit. Let me take Uncle Bob here for an example. He says that he would need 12 lakh rupees per year in order to retire. This now becomes his goal. He needs to generate that much amount of money from his investments alone. Well, how does he do that? Using the 4% rule. It basically states that you will never run out of money if you withdraw only 4% out of your investments every single year. What I mean by this is, say you have invested 10 lakh rupees in the stock market. Of course, the stock market will keep giving you returns on top of it, but if you withdraw 4% of this amount, which comes down to 40,000 rupees per year, you will never run out of your investments and it will adjust with the stock market returns as well. Now, even though this rule has taken all historical movements of the stock market into account, I would still go with a safer 3% rule instead of 4%. This means you can take out 30,000 rupees as your expenses instead of the previously calculated 40,000. Now let's get back to Bob. So Bob wants to know how much money he should invest in order to get a consistent 12 lakh rupees per year for himself. Let's help Bob out here. Now we know that his expenditure is 12 lakh rupees per year and the amount he can withdraw from his investments is 3%. So after the calculation, you get 4 crore rupees invested in the stock market. Now this might seem like a huge amount to work towards, but trust me, it is easier than you think. We'll be learning how to do that in the upcoming steps, but at least we have a goal for Bob to work towards. So the second point that comes up here is analyzing your cash flows. Here you need to analyze two main things. The first is how much you are spending. Now you can do this in the traditional manner, which is writing down all of your spendings and then calculating the total and seeing where you're spending most amount of money and if you can do something about it as well. Or you can also take the digital approach, which is just doing the same thing on your mobile phone. If you're currently spending most of your money through cash, then I would highly recommend you to open a bank account and try to use it for all of your expenditure instead of using cash. This is because you won't have to keep tracking where you're spending money and it will show up on your bank statements itself. Further, when you start your own business or a venture, this habit of spending money only through your bank account will help you a ton, because at that point you'll be able to show these as your business expenses and get tax benefit on top of it. After you start to see where you're spending the most amount of money, take action on it. Try to lower your spendings and set a budget for yourself. For example, if you see you're spending more than 20,000 rupees every month on food itself, here you can cut down on going out to fancy restaurants and limit it to once every month. You can also set a budget for your food expenses and not go above that limit. Now there are a ton of good apps that connect with your bank account and show all of your expenses in a systematic way. To name a few, there's ET Money, IND Money and so on. You can use these apps to basically track all of your spendings and much more. After this comes earning more. Yes, it's actually easier than you think. Now there are actually a ton of ways in which you can do this, but let me tell you a few of the methods that I follow. If you are you're not earning at all right now and want to do so, then watch this particular video in which I talk about the different side hustles that you can start with. The interesting part comes after you start earning. Let's take Uncle Bob for example again. He's currently a video editor working 9 to 5 with a company. Now when he first got this job, he wasn't an expert and was just starting out. However, right now he's a professional and still hasn't made a significant increase in his earnings. This is because we tend to choose the safer route always. And instead of asking for a better pay and having that awkward conversation with your boss, you would rather keep what you were earning and what you first got on your job. A quick tip that I would like to give to you is, instead of asking for a raise straight away, ask for what you need to provide to the company in order to get an extra 20 to 30,000 rupees per month. Now I can do an entire course on negotiations and how to do that effectively, but here I just wanted to prove to you that there are several different ways in which you can keep doing what you do and still make more amount of money. Other than this, in Uncle Bob's case, he can also start with some side hustles along the way and utilize his video editing skills to work as a freelancer as well. Or of course, he can even sell his video editing courses to others who want to learn this skill. Basically, what I want to say here is, just like we diversify our investments to lower the risk of losing all our money, we also need to diversify our earnings and build multiple sources of income. For example, I currently have over 11 different sources of income. If you'd like to know more about it, then do write it in the comment section below and I'd make a separate video on that topic as well. The third point is not to take bad debt. If you currently don't have any loans or debt, then you already are better off than most of the people. There are actually two types of debts: good debt and bad debt. Let's look at each one of them in detail. So good debt is a loan that you take to buy assets which in turn generate money for you. Uncle Bob is here again for our example. So he currently has taken a loan to buy a rental property. Of course, he will generate money through the rent and the prices of the property will also go up in the future. Hence, this is considered as good debt. However, at the same time, he wants to buy an iPhone and doesn't have enough spare money at hand. But the sales executive tells him that instead of paying everything upfront, he can take out an EMI and basically pay for the phone every month till he pays the entire amount along with the interest. As the phone doesn't generate any money for him, taking a loan to buy it would be considered as bad debt. Loans can also create a burden for you in the long term. If you lose your job, you would need to find another one desperately, as the loans that you have taken will be overdue. However, say you have saved up 6 to 12 months worth of your expenses as an emergency fund in your bank account. This way you wouldn't have to worry about finding a new job as soon as possible. Rather, you would have a nice buffer time to choose the best one. So make sure you create your emergency fund in which you have saved at least 6 to 12 months of your living expenses. The last point that we have over here is investing. Before you actually start investing your money, let me first change how you think about investing in general. This is something that I came up with back when I was 12 years old and it has stuck with me ever since. Think of money as water and the economy as river. Now, just like in a river, water keeps on flowing continuously. Economy is the flow of money from one place to another. Now, this is where it gets interesting. In a river, there are many rocks and pebbles which basically stop the flow of water. The bigger the rock, the more water it stops. But you will notice that even though it holds a lot of water, it eventually has to participate in the flow and let it go as well. Same happens in an economy. When you start saving money, you're basically stopping the flow of money. So even if you keep earning and never spend a penny, eventually you will fall victim to inflation and whatever you save will erode over time. This is where you need to learn about the art of investing. Here you let your money flow in the economy by investing in good businesses and thus get returns on top of it. Once you understand this key concept on why you should start investing instead of just saving money, the next question that comes up is, where should you invest? Now for that, I've made a detailed video describing my current investment portfolio and you can learn from that. But in the general sense, if you're someone who can take more risk and are in your early 20s like me, then invest heavily in volatile options like stock market, cryptocurrencies and so on. However, if you have some loans or have a family to take care of, then invest in safer options like liquid funds, bonds and so on. Of course, you would need to learn how to diversify it based on your risk portfolio as well. Now, as for Uncle Bob here, he needed 4 crore rupees invested and was going to invest it in the stock market. Now, he can choose the risky option of going with individual stocks, but let's go with index funds only. Sensex is an index fund that tracks the top 30 companies in India, and it has historically given an average of 15% returns. That means Uncle Bob will be making an average of 15% on his investments if he invests in Sensex. Now, let's say Uncle Bob is 25 years old, and as we have assumed his expenses to be 12 lakh rupees per year, he would be earning at least 24 lakhs right now. Now, of course, if you're not earning this much and are thinking this is way off from my earnings, then your expenditure would also be lower. So here the numbers don't matter much, instead the percentage matters more. If you're only spending 50% of your earnings and keeping the rest for your investments, then you're already well off for the start. If we take Uncle Bob's expenses out of his earnings, we are left with the remaining 50%, which comes to 12 lakh rupees, which can be used for investing now. Now let's look at what happens to his investments if he just blindly invests 1 lakh rupees monthly in Sensex, which grows at around 14% every year on average. To reach 4 crore rupees, which is his retirement goal, he'd need just 13 years. Yes, within just 13 years, he'd have retired without having to continue his job or do the things just to earn money, because his investments will keep on earning for him even when he sleeps. Now here, I didn't take inflation into account because his earnings will also grow over time, and so he would be able to invest more of his money. However, it becomes really important to create a proper portfolio for yourself before you start investing. So check this particular playlist out in which I've talked about my investment portfolio over the years.